Hey, it's Mazzy here, and this is Psychedelic Leftovers. California Leftovers. California Psychedelic Leftovers. This is sort of a request video in a way. It's a mea culpa of some artist I forgot, and just a sort of a supplemental video on not ranking these records. Now, if you just stumbled across this video first, I suggest you watch the San Francisco psychedelic scene video and the Los Angeles psychedelic scene video. And this is sort of the outtakes, the extras. You know, this is where you got to suck up and pay for the box set where they stick all this extra shit on that wasn't on the original version that you already bought. Not really, but I got a lot of comments, especially, well, the San Francisco one has been at a long time now. Well, not a long time, but 3 weeks, 4 weeks. 60,000 people have watched that video, and I have over 800, as of this recording, 800 comments. A lot of people in that video suggested groups that I maybe didn't have, so that's why they're not included, because I just only wanted to show records pretty much I had on vinyl, with a couple exceptions. Some people suggested bands that were not from San Francisco, that were from the Southern California, LA, or even other countries. And some just got it wrong. And some I forgot or I don't have, as I said. Same with the LA group. I did the LA Los Angeles version mainly because of people were so seemingly fond of the San Francisco version. I wanted to do an LA version and make up with some of those bands. So I pulled a bunch of records that cross over. A lot of these were suggested by you up there. And I'll put a little my 2 cents into it, and we'll see where it goes. The only CD I'm going to show is this one. This is a collection. I don't have any vinyl of Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope was a Southern California, Los Angeles-based band. A lot of people may know of David Lindley, great guitar player that had some Rayo X, is it, Exo Ray solo albums, worked with Jackson Browne, a great studio musician and a great guitar player. Kaleidoscope was psychedelic, blues, folk, rock, Middle Eastern, and this has all 4 of their records that go through 1966, I believe, to 1970. I do not have their records. I need to get at least that first one there. Don't have them. I never got them for whatever reason, but that's why I have this fantastic set. So, okay, off the bat, I'm going to separate these, and I have an LA pile and a San Francisco pile. I'm going to start with the LA pile. One group that was suggested, and that was H.P. Lovecraft. This is their debut album, and I do have it, and I bought it new on Phillips Records. Now, the only thing is, this was actually, they're a Chicago band. This was recorded in Chicago, so that's why I didn't show it in my first video, but so many people requested this. They did move to LA and became based in California. So H.P. Lovecraft, psychedelic, a little bluesy, rock and roll, cool cover. You all know where that name came from, right? Named after the great baseball player H.P. Lovecraft. Okay, another band I did show, and this is the debut, 1966, Buffalo Springfield. I broke my own rules, so I probably should have shown this. I did show their second album, which was high on my LA list. Obviously, this has the great single, For What It's Worth. That was actually added, I believe, of the first pressing of this, which I do have a mono pressing. For What It's Worth wasn't on the album, as I recall. But that was sort of this iconic song about the riots on Sunset Strip. And again, as I said, this is why I wish you'd watch those 2 videos. I'm using psychedelia as the psychedelic scene in California. So all these bands are not psychedelic. This first Buffalo Springfield is not a psychedelic record. Boz Scaggs' first album was not a psychedelic record. Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks is not a psychedelic band, but all those bands were part of the San Francisco and LA sort of psychedelic culture, the scene. That's what I'm showing. That's what I'm making up. That's what I'm defining in this video. So any wankers that just want to be arbitrary, I get it. I get it. These aren't the hardcore, cliche psychedelic bands. But there are so many fucking subgenres anyway in music. I'm calling this the California psychedelic scene. okay, Buffalo Springfield, so great. I mean, beautiful vocals, more in the sort of early kind of country folk rock, really, more than anything else, but a fantastic record. Now, a band that I just totally blew off and I forgot, so I appreciate the reminders. So the reminders and the suggestions are good. I'm not like pissing on your parade telling you you're wrong and you fucked up, but I did. I missed this one. Electric Prunes. I mean, one of the great songs was it 1966, pop psychedelic garage-like songs as I had too much to dream last night. And this is a good record, produced by David Hassinger. I believe this is 1967. Yeah, fantastic album. So I really like this record. And Miaculpa, I just literally forgot it. And while I'm showing that, I'm going to show this in, but this is kind of an oddball of a record. This is really a David Axelrod kind of egocentric personal project using the Electric Prunes as sort of the frontal assault marketing it as an Electric Prunes record, which it almost really is not. And it's based on the Kol Nidre, which is the Jewish, well, anyway, it's a whole Jewish prayer, and it's not for everybody. Psychedelic pop art, classical soundtracky. David Axelrod, I probably could have stuck a few of his records in there, but because they're interesting. But I just thought I'd throw that in. Now, I did mention in that video, who did I did? I mentioned Ballroom, Millennium Ballroom, as sort of power pop, sunshine pop. And I did mention the association. My favorite song by them is from their first album, Along Comes Mary, that great song about marijuana. Don't have that record. I have the greatest hits. I don't have the real psychedelic ones, but this to me is their best album. Very sunshine pop. Of course, Windy is on here, and Never My Love. One of the most beautiful love saccharine recorded records you'll ever hear. Just a great, great record. I just loved it. I love the association. And I bought an original copy of this when it came out because I loved Windy as a single. But it's very sunshine pop, not psychedelic in the true sense of the word, but 1967 from LA, like really a studio musician's wet dream, this album. And of course, I got a lot of responses. I picked one Monkey record, and one of them, well, I'm adding two here. I'm adding this mainly because I had forgotten, and it was pointed out to me that the Moog synthesizer was used on, is it Daily Nightly, the cut on here by Mike Nesmith, one of the first songs with Moog, excuse me, my pronunciation is actually pronounced Moog, even though there are two O's in the middle there. Synthesizer, Robert Moog. Great record. I was a big Monkees fan. And of course, they're probably the most psychedelic piece of music, which is really out there. And what's great about this record, it's the soundtrack of their movie Head. And what's great about it, if you're in Southern California, sunny California, you can use it because it's a reflective cover to get your sunshine rays there. Look at that, see? Wow. I think I can see the Shroud of Jesus in there somewhere, isn't it? If you haven't seen this movie, it's a trip. Frank Zappa's in it. Victor Mature is in it. It's a shit show of a movie. The Beatle Connection. The incidental music is composed by Ken Thorne, who did the incidental music on the Beatles. Help. But anyway, Head. Now this is kind of psychedelic shit here. All right. Oh God, and back to back Metallic covers. Okay, I totally forgot Steppenwolf. I did think of Steppenwolf, and the first two Steppenwolfs are amongst my favorite of the sort of garage psychedelic rock and roll records of the 60s. Because in my mind, I think of them as a Canadian band, but they did come and recorded these records in LA, so I blew it, I missed it. Obviously this album with Born to Be Wild, The Pusher, what a great song. These two albums need to have audiophile, and I don't think everything needs to be audiophile. There is a Analog Productions acoustic sounds version of the greatest hits, but this is a great album. 28 is on here. Tighten Up Your Wig, spiritual fantasy, beautiful, almost like an Eleanor Rigby type, a beautiful song. Don't Step on the Grass, Sam, Magic Carpet Ride, of course. This almost gives this one a run for the money. They're equally as good, but after this, I like their records, but these are the ones that need to be in print, very in good quality records. Steppenwolf, LA, okay, you know, Canadian, whatever. Obviously, I showed the first two Doors albums, but come on. This is a great record, too. Hello, I Love You, Love Street, Spanish Caravan. What a beautiful sort of classical guitar intro. And, I mean, what a great record. I mean, any of the Doors 60s records, you know, are fantastic. I did get a lot of requests because I did mention Iron Butterfly's In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, which is the classic record. The two records that other people mentioned quite a bit were Ball. I thought I had Ball, and I do not anymore. So sorry, fellas, about Ball. But I do have Heavy. Great record. And in a way, I would almost agree that Ball and Heavy might even be better than their debut, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. But In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida is so iconic that I had to show that one. I just picked one on my, again, those are ranking videos of my top ones. So even some of these, it's not just about forgetting them. It's that they didn't fit in my top 25 or 30. They bubbled under. So you can't show everything. One man's opinion, Iron Butterfly. Now these two, you know, some wanker out there is going to say these shouldn't even be in the list. But let's talk about Graham Parsons a little bit. But International Submarine Band record, which is maybe cowboy psychedelic, but more on the cowboy country side. A little psychedelic mixed in, folk. Obviously, Lee Hazelwood produced this, who, you know, one could argue he got a little psychedelic with Nancy Sinatra. I'd like to get a little psychedelic with Nancy Sinatra back in 1966 and 1967. Some Velvet Morning. I mean, that's pretty psychedelic right there, right? But this is the record, and of course, this great record, Flying Burrito Brothers. This is Gildan, the Gilded Palace of Sin. This is a perfect record, and there's, you know, intro to country rock, you know, right after Sweetheart of the Rodeo and that. But I didn't go in that country psych or cowboy psych period. But for the sake of this story, for the sake of your requests, you and you up there, I'm including this. God, what a great, I mean, look, come on. How many psychedelic cowboy albums do you have with nudie suits on the cover, aside from Marty Stewart, you know, 20 years later or whatever, 30 years later? Okay, let's kind of drive up the coast, get on Highway 1, Highway 101. Let's go towards San Francisco. Let's stop off in 1967 at the Monterey Monterey Jazz Festival, Monterey Fairgrounds, and go to the Monterey Pop Festival. I'm just throwing this in there because this changed everything. One of the first great, famous pop festivals. This was put on by Lou Adler from A&M from Ode Records and John Phillips of the Mamas and Papas. And of course, this is a truncated version. If you haven't seen that documentary, you should watch it. In fact, the Criterion version, I believe, has all these outtakes. I mean, there was Buffalo Springfield and Butterfield Blues Band and Grateful Dead and Simon & Garfunkel and Laura Nyro, Electric Flag, Jefferson Airplane, Big Brother, of course, Jimi Hendrix, The Who, and Janis Joplin with Big Brother, Otis Redding, come on, Quicksilver Messenger Service, I think I said them. But this is a great soundtrack version. But the box set of the movie, it's a documentary that if you're into psychedelic music, if you're into pop music, you need to see it. Okay, and we're driving back up the coast now. We're cutting over Santa Cruz Mountains, going into 101, going to the, you know, what we now call Silicon Valley. It wasn't Silicon Valley then. San Jose, Sunnyvale, Los Altos, Menlo Park, Stanford, and we got the Chocolate Watch Band. I got so many requests for the Chocolate Watch Band from the San Francisco video. I was trying to stick with San Francisco, not the whole scene down in the South Bay, but it is the greater Bay Area. So these two records, The Inner Mystique and No Way Out. What great psychedelic covers and great records. Now, I would say hands down, the #1 requested album that I did not include. And people were like pitchforks. They were coming at me, like wanted to, burn my windmill down and everything. And that's Grateful Dead's Anthem of the Sun. I showed Axamoxoa, but I didn't, and their first album, but I didn't show Anthem of the Sun. I like this record. I like those other ones better. That's why I didn't include them. This is a combination of studio and, it's very psychedelic. It's probably more psychedelic than those two albums. I would agree with that. It is a combination of studio and live, and it's a mishmash. Fantastic cover. There you go. So Anthem of the Sun here. You happy now? Happy now? Another one that I got a lot of requests for, and I love this record, but I included 3 other Jefferson Airplane records, I think. And this is Crown of Creation. What a great, this is a really good album. Lather on here and Triad. Triad's a song David Crosby wrote, and the Byrds wouldn't let him do that song. But Grace Slick just does it so beautifully. I think the Byrds version with Crosby came out on a box set years later, because they did record it, but they just put it out. In Time, Triad, Star Trek, If You Feel, Crown of Creation, The House of Punio Corners. Fantastic record. What can I say? There you go, RCA Records, the fabulous Jefferson Airplane. Here's another record that people requested, and I mentioned it, I believe, The Charlatans. It's a shitty record. It's not very good. I have it. It's on Phillips Records, right? Yeah, it's not very good. Dan Healy, Dan Hicks is in here. Psychedelic cowboy, folk, country, whatever. It's not a very good record. Bluesy, folky, Recorded in San Francisco, Pacific High Recordings, but okay, happy now? Another record which I love, and I felt it was more blues-based, but I know that's me being inconsistent because I did show Boz Scaggs and Dan Hicks and things like that. But this is a fabulous record. This is my copy. This is one of the few copies I have, an original copy of, that I actually wore for some reason. It's got a lot of ring wear, and most of my records don't. And that's Mother Earth, Living with the Animals. Very soulful blues, the great vocalist Tracy Nelson. This is a fantastic blues, folk rock record right in there, Northern California. Really good record. So I love this record. Oh. Now, I'm going to show, here's a folk record, another folk record. I mentioned Dino Valentino. Dino Valentino, Quicksilver Messenger Service. Then he went to jail, some drug charges, so he was not on the first 2 Quicksilver albums, first 3 maybe, actually. I don't think he was on Shady Grove, right? Nicky Hopkins jumped in there and played piano. A song called Dino Song about him, his song on the first album. Then he comes back, and of course they have their bigger hit with Fresh Air. But I've always said, I wish he'd never came back. No offense, at least for Quicksilver. I wish he did this instead. Because he came back and he had all those Quicksilver Messenger Service records, from the 4th one, from Have Another Whiff, Just for Love, drenched in reverb, and it was all about the Dino Valentino and John Cipollina, and started getting, it seemed seemingly a backseat, just my call. And I think a lot of people felt that same way who love those first 2 Quicksilver records. But this is a record, a folk record, done before that. I think this is 1968, I believe. Produced by Bob Johnston, who worked with Dylan and has liner notes by the great San Francisco columnist Ralph J. Gleason. This is a beautiful, haunting psych folk record. Local radio station KMPX in KSAN played a song on here called Children of the Sun. It's acoustic guitar, 12-string guitar with a lot of echo on his voice. That concept works beautifully on this record. So if you like haunting, like late night, early morning, minimal folk music, which is just haunting vocal, this is a wonderful, wonderful record. So I'm including this here. No one actually suggested this, but I think I want to include this and just let you know about this record if you don't know about it. Epic Records, is it? Epic Records, Dino Valentino. Now, okay, psychedelic band. I didn't include these guys because they weren't originally from San Francisco, but you're right, they did emigrate here, and a lot of people called out this record. This is the debut on Capitol of Mad River. What a fantastic cover. Original Capitol Rainbow label. Love this record. I didn't follow them beyond this one record. I got this one record and that was it. Beautiful cover, beautiful package, kind of psychedelic-y, black and white photography there. Really kind of cool record. And they're addressed in Berkeley, California, so I should have included them. Hey, never saw them either, but Mad River. You guys called it. You. This one was brought up a lot, and I didn't include this because there's like a Chicago blues. They did come to San Francisco and hung out here. I'm thinking this was not recorded in the Bay Area, and I probably should have looked that up so you can tell me. But of course, Electric Flag with Mike Bloomfield, who moved here and stayed here for the duration for the most part. Harvey Brooks, great bass player who played with him on Super Session. Barry Goldberg. Let's see, who else is on here? Buddy Miles, great drummer, obviously. Good record. Oh, Paul Beaver plays synthesizer. So my guess is it's probably recorded in the Bay Area because he was based in the Bay Area too. So they also played at the Monterey Pop Festival. Really good band, really interesting band, long time coming. Funky blues-based rock and roll with a little psychedelic stash thrown in. And then one I did not include, and I probably should have, is obviously Sly and the Family Stone. And this is Stand. Great soul, funk, R&B. Of course, Woodstock pushed him over. Their Riot is Going On is a fantastic album, except that's 1970, and I chose not to show that. I didn't feel this is psychedelic, but again, I'm screwing with my own description. So it fits in the whole psychedelic scene, part of the San Francisco movement. So Sly and the Family Stone, Stand. Another one I got a lot of requests on. I showed the first great Moby Grape album. Some people think that's the pinnacle of the San Francisco scene. Very rock and roll. And I like Wow. Wow has grown in stature for me. This is their second album. This kind of bombed in a way, or didn't have the same respect. And it came packaged with a jam record. And I've said this before if you watch this video. This has grown in stature for me. There's one track with Arthur Godfrey, the old vaudevillian ballroom crooner, and you have to switch your record player to 78 on the last track on side one to play it. This is jamming with Al Cooper and Mike Bloomfield, produced by David Rubinson. Just a jam record, and I really like this record. It ends up, though, with this piece called The Lake, a psychedelic montage, which is really out there with poetry written by a guy named Michael Hayworth. And I said this before on my channel. KFRC, the AM radio station, had a contest. If you entered lyrics, a poem, and you won, it would be on the next Moby Grape album. I actually entered. I wish I still had a copy, whatever I entered. This guy won, and basically the poem is sort of read in a spiritual Indian kumbaya-esque way, and that's the end. So if you listen to the last track, The Lake, that montage, that's where those lyrics came from. But I like this. I like this. And lastly, to end this, Steve Miller Band fans, if they're early fans, they usually hate the second period when he became rich and famous and became a joker, and he, all that kind of, Stratocaster sound, twangy Stratocaster sound that was so pop, almost 3/4 chords, everything, very catchy. The Joker and Fly Like an Eagle, and I like that stuff. However, the first 5 albums are it for me, and I did show Children of the Future, and I did show Sailor, and these were brought up, and I didn't want to add these because I only had a limited collection, but Brave New World, fantastic record. Boz Scaggs had left the band by this point. Again, produced by Glenn Johns. It's got Seasons is a beautiful song. Space Cowboy, I'm sure that became sort of a hit after the fact, somewhat of a hit. But this is a really good guitar. Cow Cow is a beautiful song. The Claim to Fame, The Beatle Connection, My Dark Hour is a song only with Steve Miller and Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney sings some background vocals on it and plays drums on it. So this is a fantastic record. Brave New World, I love this better than his later period. Love this. And this one is fantastic also, Your Saving Grace. And I've mentioned this before. To me, a gorgeous, beautiful song. The last song on side one is called Baby's House with this extended beautiful piano solo and organ by Nicky Hopkins, a great studio piano player who played with Steve Miller and Jefferson Airplane and Quicksilver and the Rolling Stones and George Harrison and so many other people. This is a really, really good album. One of my favorite people who played with him was Tim Davis, and who sang also, was a great member of the Steve Miller Band at this period. Fantastic. So these are the extras. These are the outtakes. These are the forgotten gems, and these are the psychedelic albums that you requested from California that I didn't include in those two videos. So I'm leaving this now. I'm not going to continue with California anymore in terms of psychedelia. We'll see if I make it to any other cities and locales. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Mazzy loves you.